And welcome in, everybody, to another live stream. It's been a while since we've had one, so I talked to Mark and said, why not? Let's do one, right? And John will be back in a minute. We'll bring him in when he gets in. Mark, you are muted. I won't. Got to get the bugs worked out here. Can't hear you. You're muted, sir. You just click your little microphone button there. You should be good.
No.
There you are.
It was being a little cranky, but I think we got it now.
Very good. Very good. How are you this evening, sir?
Oh, fine. Just having a drink.
Yes. So tonight we have, we're going to talk about a number of things. Mark, I think we're going to talk about the current solar cycle, solar cycle 25 we're getting in. Is that correct?
That is correct. 24 is now RIP, and we're into solar cycle 25.
Yep. And good evening, John. How are you?
Good evening. Hope you guys are doing all right. Just came upstairs with a glass of Pappies.
Very good. Very good. So on top of solar cycle 25, we got, we're going to talk a little bit about the Leagues podcasts. I've been listening to those. They're actually pretty good. And we're going to talk a little Arduino.
This is actually more primitive than that. This uses an ARRL microcontroller. It works.
All right, let's do that. Easier to watch you guys that way.
All right, John, if you can turn your audio down just a hair.
Okie doke. Is that better?
I think that's going to be a little bit better. It was a little hot.
Sorry about that.
No
it may
problem.
have been my closeness to the mic.
It's all right. I'm sure all three of the people, which might just be us. So we're also going to do Q&A. So you can ask us anything. John, you don't have to stick around. We understand everybody's got things to do. And I think Steve, what is Steve's called? W3PSC?
Or W3SPC.
SPC. I always invert some of those.
It's his initials. You're probably thinking John Carter because PSC is his club call.
Maybe. It very well could.
K4 PSC.
Yeah, very well could be. And he's going to pop in and talk about his new logging program for net controllers. So
that stuff is cool.
Yeah, he's looking for early adopters before he really gets rolling. But I know I've seen it on some of the white cars, John, when you've caught the net, some of those streams, and it does look pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There's a few other, just some idiosyncrasies with it, but he's working them out really quickly. So, Mark, if you haven't seen it yet, man, you'll get a real charge out of it. It is really cool.
Well, that's good because that's an area that people don't often think about when they think about logging programs. Is a logging program for a net control station. I check into the South Carolina sideband net once or twice a week, and I don't know what they're using, but it's an adventure for whoever it is the net control.
Yeah, your typical HRD or other electronic logging program isn't exactly set up to do net controlling. So, and I mean, I'm sure all of us have used just a notepad over the years. I could only imagine what the Hoodlum net, what that notebook looks like.
Oh, I've seen it.
Can you read it?
It's not important.
Depends on what time the log was.
So, I mean, it's actually, I'm surprised it's been
Pride.
this long. I haven't heard of anybody else actually creating something for that. I'm surprised it's been this long before anybody did, but I'm glad somebody is addressing it.
Yeah, he did a really good job with it. He was trying to get some developers with the company he works with to help him out, kind of on the side kind of thing. And they kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And finally he just said, screw it, I'm going to do it. And he ended up doing one version, then he went to another piece of software, and I don't remember what it's Bubble.io, I think. And he went in and wrote it in Bubble.io, and it's just flat out amazing. And the reporting on it, if you're a net manager, my goodness, one click of the button, you get your net report for the month.
Well, that's handy.
Speaking of net reports,
Yeah.
John,
Yes,
is
sir.
somebody from YCAR sending?
That is W3SBC. You can ask him when he gets here.
Okay.
Yep. He's supposed to be, and things are going to change. So, as you know, I am stepping out of leadership this fall. I am not running for re-election for president. So, Steve,
Why not?
I need a break, brother. It's
I understand.
it's this year has just absolutely, between COVID, work, the club, not having a ham fest, and everything else I've had to deal with this year. I need a break. I need to sit back and just, I need something new. Let's just put it that way. So, but I'm going to take over the trustee for the club, and that's going to let some other people move around. I'm not going to speculate on anything else, but I'm going to probably end up being the trustee, and that means I'll probably end up with net manager job. So we'll see. That's usually what we want to do, is let the trustee run net manager, but we'll see.
All right. Very good. Well, Mark, why don't we kick it off with Solar Cycle 25?
Yes. Ta-da! Solar Cycle 25 is finally here. And while the maximum is not expected to occur until 2025, things are already happening. I have been, one of the nice things about working remotely is that while I'm working here, I can turn on the radio and run FT8. And in the past 2 weeks, 14 days, on 9 of them, there were openings on 12 meters. That's pretty good. 9 out of 14.
Yep.
And this time, if we were in May, June, or July, you might say, well, it's multi-hop sporadic E. But I was working trans-equatorial F down into Chile, Argentina, Uruguay. And also, in the mornings, I was working into Europe, working Gs, Fs, EIs, Is, IS zeros.
Sardinia.
Yes. Yeah, it sounds like an exotic meal. Yes, I'll have some Sardinia with a side of red rice, please. Okay.
But
oh, Christ.
Great. We're a little punchy tonight, are we?
I pulled the pin on the hand grenade and tossed it.
Oh, man.
All right, folks. It's going to be a good night tonight. So
That's a record, man. We're only 9 minutes deep into this thing, and somebody already blew it up.
We haven't had enough to drink yet.
Yeah, speaking of that, tonight I'm drinking huckleberry vodka that came from Montana when Miss Lee went out to Montana with Paula this summer. They brought back 2 bottles of huckleberry flavored vodka from a local distillery in Montana.
What does a huckleberry taste like?
Well, I mixed it with soda, and it tastes like carbonated kerosene and high fructose corn syrup. So in a word, it's great.
That's awesome. I don't care who you are.
No, it's not bad. The flavor is not overpowering, and it mixes well with soda. And since I got 2 bottles, guess where the other one's going? KP4GFJ has a birthday on December 4th.
There you go.
There you go. Well, that'll be that should last the day.
Mark, are you a vodka drinker?
Yes.
I've got some Polish sweetgrass or wheatgrass
Wheatgrass.
vodka.
Boy, here we are.
I have not opened.
It's going off the rails
opened,
already.
I have not opened that up yet. So when we get out of this COVID mess, we'll open that bottle up and we'll sit there.
All right.
I'm not a big vodka guy. I'm a whiskey guy, but I need somebody to drink that with.
Well, I'm a vodka guy who normally would drink vodka martinis, but what happened, I kept drinking them drier and drier, less and less vermouth. And I realized that I finally got to a point where I was throwing some ice in a shaker, pouring in a bunch of vodka, shaking it till it was cold, straining out the ice, popping in an olive. And that's
Not
about
wrong with that.
martini as you can get. All right. Now,
So,
that's a wonderful segue into the topic that we're actually supposed to be talking about.
Solar Cycle 25.
Yes.
yeah,
so-
on the screen, you see there.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Fortunately, I can read. That may not be true an hour from now, but right now I can read. Yeah. So what's interesting, there is now the beginnings of some better propagation on the high HF bands. And one of the beauties of FT8 is you need any propagation. You don't need great propagation. You don't need reasonably good propagation. You just need something. And you can make some contacts with FT8. And that's what I've been seeing the last couple of weeks. A lot of activity on FT8, occasionally on 10 meters, if the bands are good enough. Plenty of activity on 17 and 15. And what's fascinating, it used to be, 15 years ago, the activity would all be down in the CW portion of the band. Now, FT8 and phone, mostly FT8.
Yeah. Sidebar for the FT8 is you put this the perfect way, I think, because a lot of people say, well, I thought that was a low power mode, and here's how you put it, and it just framed it beautifully. I thought was you look at FT8 as a weak signal mode, not a low power mode.
But it's interesting that's a tomato kind of thing. If conditions are good, you can run FT8 as a low power mode. If you've got good propagation, say near the top of a sunspot cycle, and you're on 12 meters, you could probably make an FT8 contact into Europe or into the Pacific at the right time of day with 5 or 10 watts. Right now, no. You better run at least 100 watts. And if you really want the contact, you need to flip the big switch and run QRO. 1,000, 1,500 watts. It's amazing. You'll make some contacts. Yeah, how people view FT8, I think, depends on where you use it. I use FT8 a lot on 6 meters, and it is absolutely a weak signal mode. You can make contacts with just 100 watts if you've got something else going for you, like sporadic E. But generally, you're going to want to run as much power and have as much gain as you can on 6 meters. And to some degree, that's true on 10 and 12. It's really true on every band. It is a weak signal mode. If conditions are good, you can use it as a low power mode, but I don't think that was the original intent. I think it was really designed as a weak signal mode, and people sometimes get the two confused. But yeah, it's absolutely a weak signal mode, and that means sometimes to get that weak signal, you're going to have to up the power. But we're in the very beginnings of an increased sunspot cycle, and that's good new. That means more. Say what?
Bad news too.
Well,
we're seeing C-class flaring now, and with the magnetic field as weak as it is, we start seeing some X-class flares. We might have some problems, folks.
Well, you are absolutely right, John.
Yep.
And that's a classic case of the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Mm-hmm.
A flare like that can lead to a SID, sudden ionospheric disturbance, and it can wipe out HF communications. I mean, you can turn on the radio, and I don't care what you have connected to it in terms of an antenna, you won't hear anything.
Yep. Seen it happen before. 2017. We had that big X-class flare, and it wiped out the bands for about a day. I don't know if you guys can see that screen in the middle here, but is there a contest going on? CW contest or something? Is it worldwide CW?
No.
No, that's the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Because CW is just full up, and FT8, FT4 is full up too. Let me move this a little bit. You could
Well,
probably,
then that wouldn't be a CW contest.
yeah, but I'm just saying, look at the CW signals. That's just the CW portion of the band. If you can see that,
That's a lot.
Yeah, if I move the microphone up, and 80 was just as crazy. Let's see. There's 80. Let me expand it. I mean, they're all on top of each other on 80.
I don't know if it's worked all Europe, but we can look that up here in a little bit.
Yeah, it could be WAE.
But Solar Cycle 25, I mean, you got some good sunspots coming up right now. I mean, you got some big sunspots there on the southern latitudes. I mean, you got some nice big groups with some magnetic interaction and some nice penumbra around it. So, I mean, it's looking pretty good. So hopefully it'll hold. It'd be nice to see more than one group than what we have now, but we'll see what happens.
Well, here's the from Space Weather Live, and this is now, and you're right, C-class solar flares 80% in the red. Sunspot number 35 looks like that's up 7 from yesterday, so that's good. Which, sometimes if we get lucky on occasion when it starts dipping down before it comes back up and all that, you get some spikes. And sometimes, depending on what you're doing, you got to strike when the iron's hot. So you got to get on the air.
Yep. Well, that's why I've been leaving everything turned on while I'm working.
Can't blame you. I'd be doing the same thing if I could do it. I'm actually thinking about taking my Maestro to the office and setting it on my desk. I hate to say it, but
have you taken that like out to your deck or anything yet?
Yeah, I've taken it out to the deck. I got to tell you guys, you know how dyed in the wool Yaesu guy I am,
Sure.
for as short as I've been in the market. But this Flex is pretty freaking amazing. I mean, it is just the stuff it does is just, I mean, and the receiver on it, it's crazy. It's that good. I didn't participate as much as I wanted to in the CW Worldwide, or I'm sorry, CQ Worldwide sideband. I ended up with a pretty heavy migraine Friday night, so it kind of wiped my Friday night out. But this thing was pulling out stations. I would never be able to pull them out with my 3000. As much as I love that radio, I couldn't have done it.
Well, and there was a lot of activity on that contest too. I thought it went
yeah.
down a little bit just from the numbers, but I mean, Sunday morning, I think it was Sunday morning that I texted you. I was working JAs and ZLs with 100 watts on 40 meters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you worked. Who was that on 10 meters? You worked. That was Pitcairn Island, wasn't it? Saturday night.
Yeah,
what a
on 10 meters.
Yeah, on 10.
Yeah, Pitcairn on 10. I couldn't get him. You tried to help me, and I could not hook him.
I tried, man. I tried.
I appreciate the effort. Really do.
That was interesting because I was part of that too. I was actually down in EM92 down on Edisto Island.
That's right.
And all I had was the classic 100 watts and a wire. I had a ICOM 7000 feeding a ZS6BKW at an average height of about 45, 50 feet. And the ZS6BKW was running more or less north-south. So the propagation for me appeared mostly east-west. Not only did I hear that, I think it was it a VP6 on 10 meters, that guy?
No, it was E51 Juliet Delta.
Cook Islands, that's right.
Yeah, I was Cook Islands, not Pitcairn. It was Cook Islands. That's it. I'm sorry.
E51.
That's my fault.
He was hard down a rabbit hole though, because I guess the Europeans I guess he's over there in the Pacific, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the West Coast guys, and I'm sure the guys over in Japan and all that, Asia,
they were happening.
Oh yeah, they were lighting him up. So even to get through that pile up, I mean, took some finesse. And part of the problem is you couldn't hear the other side of the conversation. We could only hear him. So you just had to put a shot in the dark is when you called him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually some evidence. That was the early evidence of improved propagation, because a year ago at that time, we were talking about 0130 Zulu.
Mm-hmm.
you weren't going to hear anything but crickets on 10 meters. And we were hearing an E51, and that is not sporadic E. That is absolutely F-layer propagation. You're talking about, what is that, zone 32?
Yep, 32.
I think that was a new zone for me. I ended up by looking, I've got worked all zones mixed and on sideband, and I need one more zone for CW.
Yeah, I need 2 for sideband and mixed, and that's it. 26 and 24, maybe.
I need. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm still waiting to earn worked all zones in a format that CW can accept.
Let's CQ. Oh yeah, we won't go into that.
Yeah, that's another topic for discussion.
That is. There you go. You got your WPX.
Yep, 1,000 on sideband, 1,100 on mixed. I got my little certificates and I've got my little stickers, so I'm excited.
I hate the damn stickers.
I don't mind them so much. I got my 150 stickers for DXCC too, for DXCC mixed, DXCC phone, and DXC 20 meters. I've got 150 on each of those, and I'm damn close on 40. If I can get a couple more on 40, I'll get to 150 there.
So we're looking at WPX, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anyway, what was interesting about that propagation on 10 meters was not just, what are we looking at here?
Oh,
WPX.
woo, 1,300. Yeah, my sideband. Sideband. I can't see it. I really should have brought my glasses up with me. 995. So you're just a little behind me on sideband, but you got me on overall.
What the hell is it?
Down there towards the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 995. Well, you got 128. Well, that's...
Well, no, that's total. That counts that. Yeah.
Yep. I got like 1,006 on sideband and 11 something on mixed.
And I'm only like 39 short of 5-band.
Woohoo! Look at you. Well, you're on a roll for sure.
No.
For WPX, you sure are.
Am I?
Yep.
I don't know.
Get your month
It's
every month.
freaking complicated. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, you got to do that, and then you got to deal with the guys at CQ, which
That's the problem.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Conversation for another time, though, because that's another rabbit hole.
We don't want to go
We're
down.
not going down that rabbit hole. Not right now.
No.
So,
So okay.
Anyway, so the interesting thing about propagation that night, to try to reel this back in and get us back on task, not only was there F-layer propagation, but John, I was hearing you guys in Rock Hill.
were you really?
Yeah. Now, Brad, it was interesting. That particular location I use, I think you've been out there, haven't you, Brad?
No.
Out Jenkins Hill? Yeah.
I've heard about it.
Well, when the pandemic's over, we'll go and bring some fishing gear.
I'll do that. I'll let you work and I'll go fish.
Well, let me tell you that brief sidebar, the time to fish there is about an hour before high tide, the red drum run. And you can keep anything between, I think it's 17 and 23 inches or 24 inches and a 23-inch red drums. Last time we were down there, in fact, earlier that evening, Leah and I had gone out before high tide. All I caught was a little sunburn, but she caught a 22-inch red drum. That's what we had for dinner.
Nice. Who cleaned it? You cleaned it? Okay.
Yeah, I cleaned it and filleted it.
I mean, it would have been awesome if she caught it, cleaned it, and cooked it. That'd be perfect.
Well, she did. She wound up cooking it because I was too lazy to drag out the fold-up gas grill. So she, after I'd got it filleted, she went ahead and put some kind of rub on it and grilled it, and it was delicious. And you can't get any fresher than that. So yeah, we'll have to go down there. The nice thing about this place is the noise floor is S0. There is no noise, even with a preamp running full bore in front of your antenna.
Well, on 10 meters, it's even quieter.
Well, on 10 meters, you could almost hear internal noise from the receiver. Brad was S1 to S2, and I had 100% copy on him.
Wow.
You guys, you and Barry, I could hear you, but I couldn't hear every single word. And then Fred, I could hear. He's about 20 miles south of you guys, and that made him a little bit closer. And I could hear Fred as well.
Yeah, Fred could hear you.
Well, I think we all could tell he was in there, but we never could. We could tell something was there.
Yep.
But we couldn't quite make anything out.
Well,
but now I had 4 elements and 1,500 watts pointed at you.
All I've got is 286 feet of wire up in the air, and that's it, and 600 watts. So, but I've seen the projections for Solar Cycle 25, and everything I'm seeing is everything is going to be as close to the peak of 24 or a little bit more. So I don't know. I came in on the downside of the peak. I got my ticket in 2016, got on the HF bands in the fall of 2016. So I was a little past peak. So you guys could tell me what it was like in 13, 14, and 15 when the peak was good, because we can expect propagation probably as good or a little better than that.
I worked 6 meters for the winter of like 2012, 13. I bet I worked 6 meters every morning into Europe.
Wow.
And the signals were not super strong, but I didn't have any trouble copying people. The solar maximum in 2001 and 2 was much better.
Yeah, 23 was a little bit higher.
And the first one I actually remember is the solar maximum in 1970. And that one was one you could have a coat hanger in.
My understanding is 54, 55 were the one that was absolutely incredible. So
yes, late 50s, like 57, 58. I while I was alive, I was not thinking about ham radio at that point.
No.
Looks like I took a little sabbatical. You know how life gets in the way sometimes, but I really got back on the air October of 13. I think that's when, right after Rocky Lamb Fest, Mark and Morgan came over and strung up the ZS6 BKW, and that got me hooked again. And that looks like that's when it started picking back up. And it was good. I mean, I would set up, I had the ZS6 BKW. I'd take my radio outside because I didn't have coax running in the house at that time. Or I didn't have enough coax to get into the house. I'd set up on the deck, put my, what I have at the time, 756 Pro, sit out there at night on 20, I think it was 20. I was working ZLs, all night long.
Refresh me on how long that ZS6L is, or ZS6 BKW is.
93 feet, some change.
Yeah, if you change out of number 14 wire with insulation on it, the overall length, let's see, each side is 46 feet, 10 and a half inches.
So that 94 feet.
That winds up being 93 feet, 9 inches, somewhere around there. It's going to be a little under 94 feet. If you make it with copper weld, something without insulation, it's going to be about 2% longer.
Okay. Well, it'll be insulated wire. I'm thinking I got some 13 gauge antenna wire insulated. I'm thinking about building one, and what I'm going to do is throw a line up. I've got 2 trees that are about 55 feet tall, and I'm going to throw a line between the 2 trees and put a pulley middle of that line and pull that antenna up between those 2. Kind of put it in the middle of that line, clear out in the middle of, so it doesn't have any trees right up against it.
Oh, I got you. So you can adjust the center of it easy.
Yeah, and I'll have true east-west propagation because that line will be north-south, or that antenna will be north-south legs, so I'll have east-west propagation on it.
Well, you will on 80 and 40.
Okay.
And maybe on 20.
Shouldn't I? Yeah,
because it's a little more than a 1.28 wavelengths. The the magic length on 20 meters is going to be, let's see, 1.28 times 70 is about 88 feet. You'll be a little longer than that, but still the main lobe will be broadside to the wire.
Mhm.
On the higher bands, that's not true. And the antenna actually radiates, it's kind of a cone, and the included angle in the cone gets smaller, meaning the main lobes get closer to the wire as the frequency gets higher.
Okay.
But those kinds of antennas have lobes in a lot of different directions,
Right.
so you don't really worry too much about moving it. I've got one, and it runs basically east-west, and it's at a height of about 60 feet. Some people I work and I get a 5.9. Other people I work and I get a 5.5, and the difference is whether or not they're in one of the lobes of the antenna.
Gotcha. I need to find something for 6 meters. I don't have anything. Well, I can tune the loop for 6, but it's probably not real efficient.
Blue line's 20 meters, the black line's 20, the blue is 40. It's
Mhm.
actually, it's not far off from being almost omni.
Yeah.
40.
On what, 40?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a little null, off to the side.
Yep. Interesting. Thank you for bringing it up, Brad. Appreciate that.
I don't know if we have any elevation patterns. Well, that's going to kind of depend on the height.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are sensitive to height and also to band, because height is relative to wavelength. So you maybe have a cloud warmer on 40 meters. You may have a low angle of radiation on 10.
Mm-hmm.
Back to 25. The most common prediction is that 25 is going to look a lot like 24.
That's what it looks like here.
Yep.
Pretty damn close. Maybe
That-
even a little bit
I've
better.
seen everything from about the same to a little bit better. I haven't seen too many that say it's going to be weaker. So, but 26, the forecast for 26 is much weaker. So,
Well,
make hay while the sun shines here, folks.
the
Let's hope we see it.
Yeah, no shit, right?
yeah, that's more of an issue for me than it is for the two of you.
I don't know. COVID might take us all. Who knows?
We're not going down that rabbit hole either.
Okay, no rabbit holes.
No.
The early discussions about cycle 25 2 years ago included some very dire predictions that showed very, very low minimum, very low maximum, as well as some that showed a very high maximum. And the folks who believed that 25 was going to be low, they've now shifted to 26, and they're saying 26 is going to be low. That school of thought is not, those folks aren't crazy at all. They're looking at the progression of solar maxima since the big one in 1957-58. That really is one of I think it might be the biggest on record.
When
And
did you start recording that?
well, solar cycles, we only began.
Yeah, because you go back to the under minimum back in the 15 to 1700s when the solar cycle was so low. You had, England in the middle of winter for middle of the summer. So
there was a period of probably, it was less than a century, maybe 80 years, the Maunder minimum, where there were no sunspots. But the actual organized recording of sunspots started in the 19th century. So there are probably reasonably good records back to about 1850. Before then, it's more anecdotal. And John brings up an interesting item that isn't often mentioned. There is a correlation, and I'm going to be careful how I say this. I'm not saying there's a causal relationship. I don't want to get a bunch of
no causal. That's a correlation.
But the Maunder minimum correlated with a period of relatively cold weather in northwestern Europe that was nicknamed the Little Ice Age, and it was preceded by a time of warmer climate. If you go back and look at the records of the Norse explorers, they were actually able to cross the Atlantic and make it to North America. Columbus thinks he got here first, but it was actually Leif Erikson a whole lot earlier. but they took advantage of a period of relatively benign climate in the northern hemisphere. And when we got into the Little Ice Age, the Norse eventually gave up their colony in North America and Canada. It was just too cold, and the Atlantic became too dangerous to traverse. And folks have wondered if there is some causal relationship between sunspots and weather. I don't know if there is or there isn't, so I'm not taking a position on this. I don't want to get a lot of nasty.
I'll go out on that plank. I 100% believe there's a causal reality to that. If you go back further and go back to the other, the Dalton minimums and the rest of them, you can see that the Earth warms and cools a lot with the solar cycles. And if you look, I'm pulled up the Maunder minimum here, where we had the Little Ice Age, and we're probably, we're 400 years outside of the Maunder minimum, and we're probably looking at a next cycle of 26 being close to the Maunder minimum, 26, 27. So we're in for some cool weather here. And with what we have with the currents right now, and I don't want to get too deep into this, and I'll say this piece and I'll shut my mouth. But the freshwater melt that we've had off of the glaciers is enough to disturb the Atlantic current. And when that happens, we end up with some serious cold weather in the northern hemisphere. And we're heading to that desalinization point with, and it has nothing to do with, and I will say this, it has nothing to do with man-made hydrocarbons or anything like that. It's strictly just the cycle of the sun. When we get warm like this, it goes and we get, maximum sunset cycles. We get warm, and then the ice melts and we get cold, and we go back, and that's the cycle that goes through. And you could see it going back through history over time. Now, whether we've increased the speed or whether we've decreased the speed, I don't think it is, but it's basically the solar cycle. That's all there is to it.
Well, that's the thinking behind the folks who connect the Maunder minimum and climate. They say that the absence of sunspots leads to a slight reduction in the sun's luminosity because the sun is quieter. It seems counterintuitive, but I get the point they're trying to make. Mm-hmm. And they're saying because sunspots correlate with slightly increased solar luminosity, and I haven't had an opportunity to check that out. I don't know if that's actually true, or
I think it's actually more of the UV rays than it is luminosity, Mark.
Well, could be.
Yep.
The idea is the variations are such that they can impact weather.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, weather is driven by the sun. If we didn't have a sun, it'd be very cold here, a few degrees above 0 Kelvin, and there wouldn't be much in the way of weather.
No.
So solar energy is what drives the planet.
And the magnetic field plays a lot in that, Mark, too. When you think about it and you look at cosmic rays, and when they come in, they hit other nuclei and they split, and you get the scatter effect. So that creates cloud nucleation. So when you have high cosmic ray input coming in, which we're right now at the modern cosmic ray maximum, because of the weak magnetic field we have, you're going to have more cloud nucleation, and that's going to create cooler temperatures. And, as we descend going forward, as the magnetic field continues to weaken and the poles move, and they're continuing to move, we'll see more and more cosmic ray interaction, and we'll see more and more cloud cover. So, that's going to change temperatures as well.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. Brad, are we allowed to use big words like nucleation? I just wondered.
My apologies.
No. Hey, I knew what it meant. I was curious.
Brad's sitting there. Have another drink, John.
Yeah.
All right. So are we done with this? We need to move on.
Yes. We're not going to talk anymore about weather or propagation.
Christ. We talked about this. Like, we can't bore these guys too much.
I'm not getting invited back.
Marty's having a good time, though. Marty out there in Six Land.
Hey, Marty.
Yeah. Hey. All right. Let's talk some Arduino.
Cool.
I don't know. Do we need a stinger for that? We need a stinger?
Yeah,
Let's talk some Arduino. How was that? I don't know. It's just what I
Oh, that was awesome, man. I am not even worthy to be here with you. Oh my God.
not after that
production
conversation.
value.
Fine. I'm leaving.
Oh,
The hell with you.
let's talk about Arduino. Mark, Arduino. So for the people that don't know about the Arduino, super fantastic microprocessor. You kind of classify that with the Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is a bit more powerful because that is actually a computer the size of a credit card, smaller than your wallet, actually, even with the case. But the Arduino micro processors that you can do, take analog and digital inputs, outputs. God, the stuff you can do with this stuff. I know I've done some project. Mark, you've done. Go ahead. Tell us what your experience.
Well, neither one of these uses an Arduino. These use a couple of microcontrollers. This one right here is a 0 to 34 megahertz DDS VFO. And it even has a built-in fluorescent display. Output is about 100 millivolts peak amplitude. I built that a couple years ago because somehow I wound up. John, you have no idea. This shop is like a.
Oh, I've seen it, Mark.
Yeah, somehow, and I'm blaming KB4GFJ for this. Somebody handed me a Drake R4B, and the Drake R4B is a pretty versatile receiver and can still hold its own. But finding crystals for those things is impossible, so that's why I built a little VFO so I could use it. And it was amazing. It took me a weekend to build it. You download the program, boom, and the signal is clean. I didn't need any additional filtering beyond what was in the receiver itself. And this ugly thing, is actually a display.
Cool.
You can take a transceiver, a transmitter, or receiver, and sample the RF and run it in there, and that is a display.
Nice. Well, Brad got me thinking. I've did those antenna projects, and I have to thank you again for turning me on to the folks over there in Germany with the UHF VHF switch, because that thing's working like a darn champ. I built the switch box for it. I've got 2 rotary switches, but Brad turned me on to an idea of doing a little touch screen display and using some relays.
The rat's nest of wires on a rotary switch. And if any of us have ever worked on a rotary switch, knows the pain. Oh my God, what a pain in the ass. So I talked to him. I said, I think you could probably do that with the touch switch and eliminate half that wiring. And he went, where were you 6 hours ago?
Exactly. Don't give me these ideas after the damn thing's built. So
that's his specialty.
Yep.
Hey, I am not great at coming up with ideas, but I am fantastic at improving ideas.
Absolutely. Well, after you sat down and talked to me about that, I said, you know what? I wonder, I've got the disconnectors from Paradan. I said, I can make one box that'll operate the disconnectors and the switches, because I'm going to do a set of switches here that switch between the 4 rigs in the shack for UHF, VHF, and I'll have a switch out there at the antenna, so that'll switch between the 2 antennas that I have up now, and possibly the other 2, which I don't think are going to happen because I think they'll get the kibosh from the XYL. So that's too much metal in the air for her. So we'll see.
Well, the Arduino, it's a great thing. It's a quality product that actually came out of Italy. How about that? I've actually got one here, one of the Arduino Uno revision 3. I don't know if they got a newer revision. I've had this about a year. It's brand new in the box. So I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yep.
But that's how it comes. You open the bad boy up. And actually their support is pretty good. You can power it over USB. It's got some feet here. And that's it.
Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got the header there. It tells you all the pinout number 2 headers. Well, you got the starter kit. That's even better.
Yeah, this thing's got just about everything you can freaking want in here. It's got the board and remote control and all the sensors and stuff. Cool stuff.
I built a GPS clock. I mean, they got the GPS modules for, and these things are cheap. Like, I don't know what they are right now. But if I remember right, John, maybe like $30 just for the blank board, if that.
No, not even that for Arduino. No,
it's not even that anymore. Oh, that's right. Raspberry Pi was about $30.
Yeah,
for just the board. But they're super inexpensive. They make cases for them. They've got I've got another all kinds of they call them shields that kind of made up to them, and I got a
$22 for an R3.
$22 for an R3. This is like a breadboard for it, so you can make your own stuff, and you get it to where it just sits right down. Get it facing the right way, right on the top. So then you can build all your special stuff on there, and you created it's called the Proto Shield. But then you created something that's great for testing or anything you want to do, and then if you want to send it for manufacturing or whatever, or get something a little more professionally made, which you can do relatively inexpensive. There's companies out there you send them.
Yeah, rapid prototyping guys.
Yeah, and they'll send you a board.
Well, hell, you can get the minis for or the Arduino Nanos for what, $7-8?
Yeah, depending on what
the megas are about $30.
Yeah, if you don't need a whole bunch of analog digital IOs, if you don't need a whole lot of IOs, yeah. But I mean, it'd drive the 4x16 displays, your touchscreen displays. I haven't done any of the LCD displays because I know there's another builder for that piece of software where you have to build the display. But actually, it's pretty good. The website's got a lot of information. It's easy to follow. And if you're familiar, now you can get into some coding, but there's a lot of stuff already out online that you can actually modify without doing too terribly much. If you know how to make some comments and some logical thinking, you can figure it out. But if you're familiar with C++ or anything like that, programming these is not hard at all.
No. Even a dumbass like me can do it.
Even a dumbass like what's the word you used?
Dumbass?
No, Mark. What was the word he used earlier?
Which word?
The mononucleation. Nucleation.
Yes. Cloud formation, nucleation.
Yeah. But I didn't finish the build, and I've actually got some other displays for this to finish it up. Actually, there's a project that came up from work, and we had a clock they would use on remotes that they got smashed. And I was pretty much just going to gut it and build my own GPS clock because you still have to set this one. And the GPS receivers are they might actually cost more. I think they were like $20. And it comes with the antenna, which actually works inside. I've had it inside and it will lock on a GPS signal. So unless you're in a basement, you might have some other problems. If you can't, it just is what it is. But just a clock, GPS sync, boom, you got accurate time. And it's going to be, and this is a technical term, Mark, dead balls on accurate.
Oh, damn. Wow. He's really getting technical now.
I hear you.
But, and I was building a watt meter, and there's some other plans out there for watt meters that even do like a Viswar lockout, lock your amp out and all that stuff. I don't need it to do all that. And if you got a solid state amp anymore, then they can take it if it's made with LD MOS. Then most of them have tuners built in, but there's just so much you can do with this. And then the Raspberry Pis. I got a Raspberry Pi sitting here running FlightAware, which is the ADSB receiver, so I can pull that up. And actually, I'll when you guys start talking, I'll pull that up and show you that. Somebody else,
the ham clock is probably one of the most prevalent projects on a Raspberry Pi that people are doing now. I mean, you see those things that are almost ubiquitous, which is, you got the gray line clock, you've got the solar cycle, you have some spotting stuff on there. I mean, everybody's using that stuff, and it's so easy to build. I mean, you just take the take the damn board and put the LCD screen to it, and drop the programming to it and plug the damn card into it, and sure enough, you got a ham clock. I run a Geocron here, and they just came out with the FlightAware stuff on the Geocron. I don't know if you know that.
Really?
Yeah, so I've got it every 30 seconds. It cycles through all the airline traffic. Right now, there's 104 of 4,497 flights. It's showing European right now, but so it'll cycle through, and now it's showing American flights. There's 501 of the 4,497 showing.
Well,
But,
this is. I mean, there's my house there in the center.
mhm.
And you can set these rings out, and then it'll show you over here the flights. You can click on them. Oh, but opened it in a new tab. I didn't want to do that. But so this guy here, boom.
Mhm.
You can visit the flight page, see photos of the aircraft, and it's really, really cool. And they got the USB dongle SDR receiver with actually a preamp built in. I built the antenna. I saw there was in QST, there was a antenna schematic, how to build one, collinear. Built one of those, which is real easy, out of some RG6, and that's what's sticking out. I just got it. It's on some mass pipe that's just zip tied to the deck.
How far out are you getting with that?
Well, this guy, I've gotten. I can show you. Let's see.
Darcy does a lot of that, and he's at K4DQP, and I think he's got out about 100 miles on his.
I've had between 100 and 150 miles, 1,500.
Yeah, I think he's gone down. I think he actually picked up some stuff in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, which is about 130, 140 miles as crow flies.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff pop up right here sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's all conditions based. But it's
Joe DKR has done a lot of that too. W8 DKR. He's got a pretty good setup. He has some highfalutin antenna he built for the damn thing. So,
W8 DKR, who is that?
Joe Amplified.
Oh, yeah, I thought so.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's been working on Smith charts lately. He's been playing around with his Nano NVA, or is it VNA? VNA, yeah. Network Vector Analysis. And he's been doing a lot of stuff with Smith charts lately. He's going to do a presentation for the club here shortly on that.
On Smith charts?
Cool. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You talk about
Well, he's got some cool insight on it. It's actually I've sat and talked with him a bit about it, and he actually has some pretty cool insight on it. It's pretty neat.
One thing I like about this is you get NexRad weather, which since it's all clear, well, I mean, like this, and it's actually updated pretty quick, almost as fast as some of the other news weather radars that you can get.
I'll turn this up. You guys can see my.
It's pretty cool, and that's just running on a Raspberry Pi. I don't really have to do much, and you can.
Yeah, so there's the Geocron up there, and I don't. It's too far away to see the flights, but it has weather on it and everything else. But again, it's 4 times what it cost you to build one of those.
The
5 times.
Well, the ham maps you were talking about, that was a QST article.
Ham clock.
Yeah, wasn't that a couple of years ago?
Yeah, and they're still out there. I mean, there's some folks building commercial ones that you can go and buy. I think HRO sells them, or Gigaparts. One of those two sell them. Geocron sold through DX Engineering, so they pretty much don't mess with the ham clock. But they're $200-$300 for a 7 or 8 inch display. You can buy a Raspberry Pi for $30 and take 10 minutes to download the programming and make some code changes to put your call sign on there and drop them in. We got one at the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Steve built for us on one of the displays in the clubhouse, and it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's a nice looking clock. I mean, it's not as detailed as a Geocron, but I mean, if you're going to spend 35, let's just say the display and everything else, you're going to spend what, $60 versus, or $70 versus a $300 or $400
power supply. Call it $100.
Yeah, say even if you buy a 30 inch display, right, for the thing, you're in there for what, $200 maximum. and just the Geocron unit itself is $399, and then you got to buy a display for it, and a 4K display at that. It'll display on a 7 or a 1080, but it's not as nice as a 4K. I've got that monitor up there is a 28-inch 4K from Samsung, and that's a refurbished unit. It still cost me about $200. So I got $600 in that. So well, I've got the Atlas, which I won in the photo contest. So I actually sold my version 2 Geocron to a guy out in, I think, California, either California or up in Massachusetts. Either JPL or he worked for MIT. I can't remember which one guy bought. One guy bought one thing, one guy bought the other.
Well, I know when they came out with the 4K, that actually put that in the price point of where more people can afford it, because before you would see those and like, oh my God, I was like, I don't know, $2,400 or $3,500 for that clock. It's like, good God, they look cool.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're a nicety. Let's
cool
put it
free.
Yep. I would love to have a mechanical, but I just can't go out and spend $2,000 on a mechanical. I just can't do it.
Why would you now?
Huh?
Why would you now? What the
just 4K? Have the mechanical? It's just like having, if you're a watch guy, it's like having a quartz watch versus a mechanical or an automatic. There is and this is going to sound really weird, but there is almost a soul to a mechanical or a automatic watch that has the mechanism in it versus a battery and a quartz. That's just my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. I'm a watch guy, so I've got some pretty high-end watches, and the labor that goes into it, the artwork that goes into it, it's almost like the watch has a soul versus a quartz watch. And I'm wearing a Sonata. I mean, I'm wearing a digital watch now. I mean, it's a smart watch, but for the most part, when I go out or I'm doing something on a daily basis, where I'm out with customers and stuff, I've got a mechanical or a automatic on. I typically don't wear this every day. This is my beat 'em up watch.
Mark wears his Fitbit
in his bra.
It's a bro.
It's a bro.
It's a bro. I'm from Seinfeld. Right?
Sorry, Mark, that was too easy.
Steve was going to join us. I need to see what's up with him.
I had a bunch of customers who were into running and females, and they would clip the Fitbit into their bras, and that's where they wore them.
Fortunately, that's not an issue for me. I just wear mine on my arm.
Yeah.
The big problem with Fitbits is they're not very reliable.
Yeah, this one actually does a pretty good job counting steps. It's a Suntoto, Suunto, whatever, however you pronounce that. It's a Swedish company. They build a pretty good watch, man. This thing's pretty damn rugged, but back to Arduino. I mean, there's so many cool things you can do with it. I mean, you can build all kinds of relay boxes for controlling stuff. I mean, it even include a Raspberry Pi. I mean, you look at what is it? ARRL sells that. What do they call it? The Raspberry Pi ham station or ham controller that'll control your whole station. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-mm. I've seen it, like DX Engineering post. They have the automation stuff. I don't know. I would imagine that's Raspberry Pi or something driven.
No, I think it's HRO that sells the darn thing. It may be Gigaparts, but MFJ produces the thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The Raspberry Pi with different extra connectors on it. It'll run your whole station for you. So
yeah, somewhere around here, I've got a little Raspberry Pi driven board that used to automatically switch all my antennas. It would read band information out of the K3.
Oh, cool.
And it would switch the right antenna. I'm not using the K3 anymore. Well, I still use it as a receiver. I don't use it as a transmitter on that. I'm using a 9100 now, and ICOMs, the only band information they provide is on HF.
Mm.
And they don't really provide any VHF, UHF information. So now I'm back to a damn rotary switch.
Well,
I'm surprised you haven't gone to the 4K or the K4 from Elecraft, Mark.
Well,
I think there's some discussion on whether
I'd look at the Flex 6600 if I were you. That's just me.
I'm
amazed. I mean, the Flex, I was, I bought this one from W3SPC and I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be between me and a 101. Now I'm like, maybe I'm not going to buy a 101. Now I may trade my 7300 and get the DX10, FTDX10, but we'll see.
I haven't really made a decision yet. I'm going to try to squeeze all the value I can out of this 9100.
Can't blame you.
The advantage for me with the 9100 is it's a shack in a box.
Mm-hmm.
I've got everything from 160 up to 1296. And while it doesn't do any of that flawlessly, it does all of it reasonably well. And so it's good for that. It's very easy to hook up for digital modes. It's just a matter of putting a USB cable into the back. There are a few quirks relating to the order of operation. It's very weird. The USB port, the board behind it, is not powered from the 9100. It's powered from whatever you plug into it.
No, that's weird.
You got to be cognizant of that. And whenever I'm doing FT8 or something, there's a sequence of steps you got to go through, and you got to turn on things in the right order. Everything works smoothly. I don't know that I'll wind up with a K4. Whatever happens next, it will be SDR. That's the wave of the future. SDR can only get better. Current analog multiple conversion super heterodyne receivers are as good as they will ever get.
Yep.
There isn't a lot more that can be done to that particular technology. SDR is still in the early phases of its development curve. There's still a lot that can happen there.
And it's awesome already.
Yeah.
I bought a transverter for this Flex for 2 meters, and it's pretty amazing. Now, it's one of the Ukrainian transverters. I didn't go and buy one of the high-end ones. I wanted to try it first, so I spent the $75 and got the Ukrainian version. But the receiver on my 710 is just a little better than this thing, but I have a feeling if I stepped up to one of the high-end ones, the receiver would be much better. So that's probably the next step, is I'm going to probably look at getting a transverter for 2 meters and maybe 1296. I don't know. I don't have any antennas up for that right now. And I don't know if I want to step into that realm or not.
No. 1296 around here.
No.
I got to a point where I had worked all 3 amateurs that I could do multiple times.
3. Count them. 1, 2, 3.
Well, you probably already know them because one was Shep, right?
Okay.
It was Bruce, NT4RT.
Okay. So Bruce Randall, Shep, and who else?
And not Shep, but Dex, W4DEX up in Charlotte.
Okay.
And then Dougie, K4LY, over in Inman. And that's pretty much, I kept hearing the same guys, and I thought, I got 30 elements at 60 feet. I got 1 5/8 hardline going up the tower. How much more do I want to invest in this?
Yeah.
And I sold the 1296 antenna. There was a guy at the Charlotte Hamfest.
Oh God,
yeah, he really needed it, and I'm glad he took it with him.
Mark, I went over to Mark's house, John, and picked a bunch of stuff up that he said, because I had a table up there and had some other stuff to sell. So I said, whatever you got. He said, yeah, I got all this 1296. It was transverter. It was what most people around here would just call weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I called it. This stuff sold on Friday.
Yeah.
And I said,
people are going to look for it. I mean,
it was so weird. I'm like, Mark came up. I said, the weird stuff is already gone.
Yep.
Said, blows me away. It was a 1296 transverter and the antenna, and it was Herman Combs that bought it all.
And
but you talk about cheap. He'll come by you 3 or 4 times and try to whittle you down.
He will indeed, because he took the 1296 stuff. He took the 222 transverter too, didn't he?
Or maybe he took the 222 and somebody else was like excited over the 1296 stuff. Like excited.
That's because he'd never worked 1296.
He's going to work the same 3 stations you did, right, Mark?
Maybe more because he's in North Carolina. If he's at a high enough elevation, he could work a few more. Yeah, the micro and of course now the microwave bands are starting to disappear. I saw the FCC is going to eventually end our secondary access on the 3.5 gigahertz band, 3456. That'll be going the way of the dodo and the passenger pigeon and everything else.
Are they doing something on 2.4 as well? Did I
Yes.
read that correctly? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, there's one topic we haven't gotten to.
I know, and we'll just touch on it real quick.
Did you want to save it for next time since we're on a rant?
I'm gonna ask John though. John, do you listen to any of the league's podcasts?
Occasionally I do, yes.
Yeah.
$50 thing? The $50 thing? No? Where the FCC is going to ask you $50 to renew your license or upgrade your license or take a test?
That's a notice of proposed rulemaking that's out in FCC space.
But they did that. They did that a few years ago, and that ain't going anywhere.
Okay.
But it's already showed up in the Federal Register is a weird thing, though.
Yeah. Well, with the new administration coming in, it may be a foregone conclusion because they're going to need all the money they can get.
Yeah.
Oh, I think they're getting money. This 5G, they're making money.
Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to mention is you guys know about the passing of Cliff Gayhart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, crap. That's what we were going to talk about, Mark.
Yeah.
Let's take a few minutes and talk about him.
Man, amazing guy. I mean, I talked to him one time on the radio, and that was it. But just amazing guy. We had Bob Heil on last Friday night. He did a presentation for the club and did an amazing job. And he did a special presentation this Wednesday on Ham Nation regarding Cliff, because I guess him and Cliff got close over the last couple of years. So, but yeah, he was one of the only Centurion Award winners, wasn't he, Mark?
Who's number 2?
Number 2.
Two, and they were both in South Carolina. The first one, the first ever, the inaugural winner of the Centurion Award was Fritz Nitsch, W4NTO, member of the Spartanburg Amateur Radio Club. And Fritz had been involved in amateur radio since before World War II. He turned 100 about 2 weeks before I went over to Spartanburg to present the award, and died about maybe a month later. It was interesting because no one had ever asked the league about awarding that to anyone. And I got a call from the Spartanburg club, and they said, "Hey, Fritz is turning 100, and they wanted me to go to the birthday celebration because Fritz and I are from the same town. We just didn't grow up there at the same time."
Imagine that.
We're both from Rochester, New York. And I used to live 2 blocks from where he grew up. But he lived there in the 1930s, and I lived there in the 1980s. So that was the difference. And I decided, since it was Cliff's 100th birthday and the club was throwing a party for him, I called the league and said, "Hey, what do I have to do to get this award for this guy?" And my contacts at the league said, "Well, we don't know. We've never awarded it."
Groundbreaker, Mark. Groundbreaker.
So we got Fritz taken care of, and then the division director, Bud W2RU, he contacted me. He and Bill Marine, the vice director, to ask about Cliff Gayhart. And I didn't know Cliff well, but I had met him. I'd been to a couple of Dutch Fork amateur radio group meetings, and that's where I met Cliff. Super guy and quite the raconteur. This guy could tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with the division leadership, and we got the Centurion Award for him. And Brad, it was last October, wasn't it?
It's November. I think it was right a year ago.
November.
Early November. I think it was early November.
Yeah, it was their November meeting. You, I, Bud Hipsley, W2RU, the division director, and was Bill Marine there, the vice director? He was too.
Yeah,
And
we did a great video with the presentation, and then Bud sat down with him and just talked to him and let him tell stories, which was actually fantastic. All of those two videos are on the ARRL South Carolina section YouTube channel, and they should be linked on the Facebook page as well. And if they're not on the website, we can get that up there.
I would like to say a couple things about Cliff. Cliff was, until the end, a real gentleman, wonderful guy, and really a raconteur. When we presented him with the Centurion Award at the Dutch Fork Amateur Radio Group meeting, he was asked by Bud to talk a little bit about his early days in amateur radio and what he did during the war. And Cliff had these fascinating stories to tell. He went on for what, Brad, 20, 25 minutes?
It was a while.
It was a while. Yeah. Brad, it was longer than Brad anticipated it was going to be.
It was memory card run out.
A lot of work, short notice, but we had to drive down there and then drive back.
It was a long night.
That's a long day.
Did we stop to eat on the way back somewhere? Was it over there at the Flying J?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, that's where we wound up stopping because there was nothing else open between Little Mountain and Rock Hill.
It's 11 o'clock.
And I'm thinking, if I'd been back in New York or New Jersey, shit, there are diners everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
But not so much here. But Cliff was a guy who was active right to the end. And he had Hubert and a couple other guys at the club that were his chauffeurs. They would take him around, made sure his equipment was working. Fascinating guy. Brad and I had a chance to hear him, and it was amazing. He was 108 at the time, but he was still mentally 100%. Really impressed. And I was glad we had the opportunity to present that award to him. And I suspect that he was the oldest amateur radio operator in the United States.
I think he was the oldest in the world.
He was 107 last year.
109.
109. And
yeah, he just passed his 109th birthday. It was like a week before. So I don't know who the oldest is right now in the U.S. I mean, you got Oscar Norris up there in Gastonia. He's 103 and doing pretty well. I mean, his mind's all there. I talk to Oscar on a regular basis. He's got that, I think it's W4CQ, their UHF repeater. We call it the Oscar channel. 444450.
I got to meet him. I think I met him when he turned 100. The Gaston Club had a party for him.
Yep. And
they wanted to invite W4CHX, Carl Bowman, who was the North Carolina section manager, but Carl couldn't make it. There was a conflict. And so I got asked to fill in, and I was happy to do it because that would have been a 4-hour drive for Carl. It was about 45 minutes for me. And he was also a very interesting guy, and mentally 100%.
Yeah,
fascinating to talk to.
I saw him for his 102nd birthday. I was at the party, and
they had a drive-by for him for this one
this year. Yeah, I couldn't make it because they did it in the middle of the day, and I was working, so I couldn't do that. I was actually out of town working and couldn't make it for this one. But they do an operating party, a special event station, N4UFP every year for them. And I've helped out the last couple of years. I didn't get on air this year. I had some antenna issues. So I didn't get a chance to get on air this year with them, but I'd be interested to know who the oldest is now in the United States. He's got to be up there if he's not the guy.
Oscar, if he's not number one, he's in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And I tell you something, if you want to get the word out about something, tell Oscar, because he knows everybody and everybody stops to talk to him, and he will spread the word.
Absolutely.
I was amazed when I went up for his party. He was asking me about guys in Rock Hill, some of the older generation.
Yep.
He said, I've known Royce for I don't know, 30 plus years. Yeah, it was fascinating. He knew all kinds. Of course, I guess when you get to be 100 plus years old,
You know, people.
you just know a lot of people.
People, you've met a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
the thing, Oscar's on the air. That's the thing.
All the time.
Yep. That's great. I mean, to me, that's one of the great things about amateur radio, particularly for a guy like Oscar, who's not going to get around a whole lot. I mean,
Right.
it's not like he can just get in a car and go somewhere, particularly now. This is a great opportunity for him to hook up with everybody he knows, through local repeaters, nets.
Yep. He doesn't have HF capabilities at the place he's at, but he does have a UHF, VHF, and DMR radio.
When he was looking at getting a 10-meter radio, I think they would let him put up something for that.
Yeah. Well, I know they've gone out there last year, 2019, for his birthday special event station. He actually was on the air one afternoon for about 4 hours and just absolutely had a blast. But obviously with COVID, they couldn't do it this year. So
yeah, he loves getting on, and he's just easy to talk to. You know, he doesn't meet a stranger. And Marty also said the interview with Cliff should be a requirement to watch, and
absolutely
I disagree with that. I just looked the video up. That interview with Cliff and Bud lasted. It was about. So the edited down version was about 14 and a half minutes. He went on longer, but we finally, and he would have kept going.
That one and the one you did with Gary Dixon are probably two that you need to watch.
Gary is just, I don't know how to explain Gary other than he is your quintessential grandpa.
And I will tell you this. Gary Dixon walked up to me at the Charlotte Hamfest this past year, and that was when COVID just started, and I vowed, I'm a handshaker. You guys know that. And I vowed I was not going to shake hands with anybody. Gary stuck out his hand. I was like, I cannot refuse this guy. He is the quintessential Southern gentleman, and he will take offense at this. So that man is the last hand I shook since all this COVID mess stood. So it's been 9 months, and I have not shaken anybody else's hand.
Gary was funny. So we did
Love that guy.
Oh, it was great. I think I was over there for 4 hours, and I got 3 hours of footage.
Yep.
So I got the first part done, and he didn't really seem all that interested at first, right? And then after about a month of that being published, he said, "Hey, when's the second part coming out? There's a lot of people asking." I'm like, "My God, Gary, you didn't even really care about doing it."
No.
But it turned out to be really good, and he's been around a long time, and what a storyteller he is.
You need to do Royce. You need to get with Royce and do one with him.
Gary is a rock hunter, and quite frankly, so is Royce.
Yeah.
WA4AFE, Royce Goodwin. He's another one that
right mood.
Yeah, you catch him in a loquacious mood. I can use that word, right? Because he got to use affiliation.
That's right.
You catch him in a loquacious mood, he'll spin a yarn.
Absolutely, he will.
He's a piece of work.
Another one that would have been great, and John, you never had the pleasure of meeting him, but Pedro.
I've been getting a bunch of stuff from George W1WW George Felber. Yeah. Peggy Palmer, who was his caretaker for many years, and she's got her license, and her husband had her license. I think he's passed, but she's been bringing me all of George's stuff. So I have his DXCC certificate, which was 1940 something. And I have his worked all state certificate from 1934. It's like number 315.
Yeah.
I mean, I got all this memorabilia from him. I had his license plate from Connecticut. I got his license plate from South Carolina. She's just been dumping this stuff. And I told the guys at the club, we're going to, we have that wall of honor where we're putting up the life members and some of the silent keys and stuff like, Haney Howell and what's his name? Oh, goodness gracious. Fred Thompson and some of the other guys for John Sneed who have passed. And we're doing a wall with them, and I'm going to put up George's DXCC certificate and his worked all states and some of the other stuff I have. I mean, that's just so much history to have, and so cool to see something. I think his DXCC certificate was like 100 and something. I mean, it's crazy.
He was a fascinating guy. The last couple of years he was alive, he and I would get together for lunch once a month at Ryan's.
Love the buffet. Old people love buffets.
Love the buffet.
George was a typical New Englander, and he was what's the polite word? Parsimonious.
That's a $5 word there. You get extra credit for that one, Mark.
More of that shit.
He was parsimonious, and he loved going to Ryan's, and so I would meet him there for lunch. And he was also a guy that had some fascinating stories to tell. He said
out of him though.
Well, if you buy him lunch, that helps.
Grease his kids.
Yeah, and you just had to get him started. I'd ask him a question, and then he would answer it, and then maybe he would talk to me some more. And pretty soon he would be just wound up in something. What happened? We were over there. I was having lunch with him one day, and I was complaining about a receiver problem I had. And so he starts telling me about receivers he built when he was a young ham, a teenager in the early 1930s. Here he is. At this point, he's 95. He's telling me about something he did when he was 13. And he said to me, yeah, it was tough being a ham in those days. He said, you couldn't go out and buy a receiver or anything else. He said, you had to make all your own shit. He said,
unfortunately, I never got the opportunity to meet him.
At the end of the sentences, it always kind of went up, Yeah,
he was good for saying, and being a New Englander, no word that ended in an R actually had an R you could hear. It was always, he'd park his car,
Mm-hmm.
he was a piece of work. But he did ham radio when it was truly experimental, when you built everything. And
the stuff I've got, if you guys want to see it, I'll be glad to share it with you. I've got some really cool stuff. I've got some letters he wrote, and I got some of his QSL cards. I mean, Peggy's been dumping. So I got his college yearbook, if that tells you anything.
Why do he have his bedside radio? What he would just listen to at night was like a Kenwood 940.
Yes.
Well, I think it's one of those things he just picked up at a Hamfest or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the neat thing about George, he and I were neighbors for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we both lived on Farmstead Road. He lived at one end, I lived at the other, and somehow we almost never interfered with each other. I was amazed. It wasn't that long a street. That was when I was married to my future ex-wife.
All right, we won't go into that either. That's enough.
No, we have not. We haven't. There aren't enough hours in a day for that one.
But Pedro takes the cake.
No, I didn't know Pedro either. So,
well, Pedro was a guy.
Salty. He was salty.
Pedro.
I like salty guys.
Oh, he's great.
He was charm-free. I'll just say he was charm-free.
I like that. That's a nice way of putting salty.
Well, he was charm-free, but that's what made him so damn charming.
Yes.
And that's why you loved him. I mean, you didn't have to worry about what did he mean by that. It was very clear what he meant. God damn it, Don, you're a fucking idiot.
Nope. Brent's correcting you. You said it was Golden Corral, Mark.
He's wrong.
Not Ryan's.
No, his text said it was Golden Corral about you were telling him something about with Motorola DMR. The damn mobile radio.
Damn mobile radio. That's a good way to put it. I hate DMR. Don't even get me started.
I got to think about that.
We'll be here for another hour. God, I hate you. God, look at that 80 meters. Jesus Pete's, man. There's got to be some kind of contest going on.
I don't know if just somebody could copy CW and figure out what was going on.
Those are all too small for me. I could pump it up here if you want to hear it.
No.
Okay.
No. I do have a video on working CWDX with very little CW experience. It doesn't take a much. Really, all you got to do is recognize your call sign and be able to send. It's not. You don't even have to really be.
We have that cheater keyboard I have.
I mean, mine's built in the radio. It's F. I got a keyboard plugged in the radio. F1, 2, 3, 4. That's all you got to have, really.
Yeah, I've got that. I picked up that keyboard down in Orlando. By the way, did you see Charlotte Hamfest canceled for March?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep.
Thursday.
I can't blame them. I mean,
No.
there's just too much variability to, we don't know what's going on with this mess that we've got going on. I mean, and I'm sure that place costs them a fortune to rent. We're so close now. Are your vendors going to show up? Are you going to get people showing up?
Well,
and how much return are you going to get for the investment?
They didn't have any vendors, but yeah, you're right. You don't know. You're going to have to spend at least the same amount of money as you spent the year before.
Mm-hmm.
You have zero idea of what your attendance is going to be.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't.
Hopefully we have vaccines by then, but again, is it going to be widely distributed? Probably not.
At that point, I think they did the right move. Orlando canceled theirs.
Is the next one to be big one to be find out will be Dayton. I mean, some of the places are having their small ham fest.
I guess did they have theirs?
Who?
Gaffney?
Gaffney did. They had it outdoors.
It wasn't much.
Waynesville canceled.
Yeah.
Grand Strand. The Grand Strands was this week, right? Down there in Conway?
They canceled.
Did they cancel? Okay, I didn't see if they did or not.
Greenwood is canceled for January. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to get my September section report out this weekend. I don't have any hamfests to report.
Well, I think the next one to come up would, big one would be probably Dayton, right?
Well, for folks in South Carolina, the next big hamfest
Charleston
is Charleston, but there isn't anything on their website about a 2021 hamfest.
And that's February, right, Mark?
Yeah, first Saturday in February.
I'd be surprised.
Oh, I don't see it happening.
So then we're looking, the next big one would be Dayton, right? After that.
It'll be in May.
And that may be able to be pulled off. We may be far enough down the road in May. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you got to plan. People going to that, you really got to plan because hotels fill up like that.
Man, if we don't have Dayton, then you're talking, good Lord. Then you're into summer.
2022.
Well, then you're back to Waynesville in July and potentially
Firecracker in July.
Yeah. I mean, what have we got here? We got somebody else.
Got a German.
Yeah.
Greetings.
Guten Abend. Wie geht's?
So what were you guys saying about the ARRL? I kind of sidetracked us with Cliff, the ARRL podcast.
Just kind of curious if you have listened to any of them. I've actually become a fan of the Eclectic Tech podcast. They're usually not very long, some good information. I mean, it's the league doing it, so it's good information and it's just boring.
Huh. All right.
But they're trying.
Yeah.
So that.
I'll tell you, they hit a home run with that On the Air magazine. That thing's really good.
When they got the On the Air podcast.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that one.
Yeah, it's actually it's pretty good too, and it's not terribly long. It's something, you don't have to dedicate 2 hours. They got a blog too, and their Facebook community is pretty good following. So,
hopefully, you guys aren't hearing that ambulance behind me.
No, it's not in your driveway, is it?
No. I can hear it. I've got the window open here in the shack because it's nice out tonight.
So only you can hear the ambulance?
No, I mean, I can put the microphone close to the window. You can hear it. I'm hearing it through the headphones.
Right.
Well, hold on. Hey, Morgan, hang on. I got to mute myself for a second. KB4GFJ just called me on the landline.
Oh, and Barry's net's going on.
We need to go.
We either let me talk to Morgan. Hold on.
All right, don't mute yourself, or do you want me to do it? Okay, he did it.
No, Brad.
Weird.
Thank you so much for having me again tonight.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. I thought
I'm sorry I sidetracked things.
Steve said he was going to come by and talk about his logging app, but
God, that thing is really, really, really well done. He did it. He did a home run with that thing, man. He really did.
Kiwi SDR.
Yeah, Kiwi SDR. That's cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. And that's another thing you can do. I think you can do that with a Raspberry Pi, can't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. No doubt about it. Yeah. In fact, Callum, M0MCX, you know all the drama with him going on, right?
I saw there was some drama. He's got to move or something.
Yeah, he's moving. So he raised a bunch of money. They're moving facilities. I think this month he's moving facilities. But he had somebody, when he was doing the 80-meter nets in the morning, he had somebody interfering with him, and they used Kiwi SDR to locate the guy.
Wow. That's
Yep.
pretty cool. You're still muted, Mark. Oh, you can hear us, though.
Hi, Mark.
Well, yeah, just because my mouth is shut doesn't mean I can't hear. In fact, I was actually trying to practice some good advice that the 16th president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, once gave. He said, "It is better to be quiet and thought a fool than to open one's mouth and remove all doubt."
That and the next one he would have thought of, sit in the back of the theater.
That's dark, dude.
Keep him here.
Oh,
A friend of mine, a coworker, used to say, when you're having something bad happen or whatever, he would you'd start telling him about it, and at the end he'd say, "Well, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?"
That is deep, dark. Good Lord.
all right. I think
Mark, are you familiar with Kiwi SDR?
I am not. I mean, I'm familiar with its existence. I haven't messed with it.
It's pretty cool. A network of SDR receivers out there.
Yep.
You can remote control.
And you can actually kind of use it as a receiver and use your transmitter as a transmitter and kind of cheat a little bit that way. I've heard of people doing that.
And DE2 TRF is now speaking in German. Thanks, Mark. You've done that. I don't know what the hell he's saying, but there.
That's too much lied.
Torsten.
Oh, it's Torsten. Sorry.
Yeah, it's his name. Yep.
Something in his pocket.
Yeah, no, that's a little beyond my German. And the only other German words I know are cuss words, so I won't say those.
Oh, yeah, let's not go there.
My business partner spent 4 years in Germany in the Army, and he learned enough German to bring back and teach me all the cuss words. So Brazilian, German, Spanish, Polish, French, I can cuss you out in any of those. Just let me go.
Sadly, my elder daughter, who was a bit of a handful as a child, Brad knows. He's met Austin.
We've met.
Yeah, we've met. She's in her 30s now. She's gotten a little better, but she was a handful. And sometimes I yelled at her and used some inappropriate words. Sometimes I yelled at her in German. Sometimes I yelled at her in English. And she learned some words that she knows to this day, and she uses them. And I was in Germany for a couple of weeks with her, and in the first couple of days, I forced her to speak German, and then after that, I quit because it was going to result in an incident somewhere along the way. Oh God.
All right, guys, we gotta end this, and but you two stick around afterwards. We'll kind of talk for a second, and
thank you. I really do appreciate you inviting me in.
Yeah, but we'll see everybody again soon. Hopefully, we'll talk about the podcast more and some other stuff.
I missed his last comment. He had something else on there, and I wasn't looking at it. Here he's also on QRZ, and then I can see the one before that. Something. Oh yeah. His name's Torsten, and he occasionally via Pocket RxTX, he uses that. So
I can't speak English. Sorry, sir.
That's fine.
You are. Oh, so he's from German.
Mark can translate for us.
Yeah. See, when I was a kid and my mom made me learn German at home, turned out to be useful. She was right.
I didn't know you were German descent, Mark.
Yeah, my my mother is from Germany, and my dad's great grandparents came from Great Britain in the 1890s.
I'm French Canadian on dad's side and Austrian Polish on mom's side. So,
In fact,
my family was run out of Austria.
oh,
They tried to, they were royalty in Austria and tried to depose the king, and they were banished.
oh yeah. Well, that only ends well if you're successful. If you're unsuccessful, that never. That
They were
ends.
sent to Poland.
All right. Well, we should probably wrap this up. Brad, you were worried about material, but if anybody knows how to prevaricate, it's us. It is we who can do it.
Another freaking word. I'm gonna slap the shit out of you next. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, YouTube fuckers, hang out a second, and we'll see you again soon. If you missed the live stream, you can catch it. It's on. We were live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So to catch it on any one of those. Hopefully, we'll see you next time.
7-3 all.
73. Torsten, guten Abend.